Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to review with you how you perform a manual backup, or at least what I call a manual backup. Now, if you've been listening to the previous videos, you understand there's sort of like what, again, I've termed the standard backup, and then I call the second method a manual backup. However, using this method, you may also, you can script or set up a automated or scheduled event for either method, or you could do both methods. You could have a cron tab, anacron, or systemd process set up to do the save method in the previous video, the standard method as it were, and then you could also have a second cron tab or anacron entry or another systemd unit timer created for the manual method. But again, I just break this up into standard and manual methods. So work it out in your head if you would like to call it something else. This is where we actually get to create the profile name. Instead of the standard method, which goes into the 1, 2, 3 directories, so there's three different directories that are with number 1, number 2, number 3, we can actually pick any name we want. Now it has to be unique at least, unless we're using the overwrite flag. So let's get into that. There's two ways to do this. So I'm going to go ahead here. And at the command line, I am going to run CYA space keep. So that's CYA space keep. Now the original intent behind keep was because the system's not going to delete this unless you tell it to, whereas 1, 2, 3 are going to be overwritten automatically by the system. So the idea was you're telling CYA, look, I want to keep this profile until I tell you to get rid of it or overwrite it. Otherwise, it's just going to stay there indefinitely. It'll never change unless you do something. So let's go ahead and hit enter. So now you can see here that the action is manual backup, and we have to enter a unique name with no spaces. So let me go ahead and I'll just say enter, we'll say base install. Even though this isn't, let's say you just installed your Linux distro or your Nix distro, Solaris, whatever. And I'm going to call this base install because I've set this up how I want it, and now I want to keep this around. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter after I've named it, and it's going to say, checking for sudo permissions. I have to enter sudo permissions, and we can see here that the first thing we get is we have to create the base install directory inside points, which is inside the home/CYA. I have said this in previous videos, but in case you haven't listened to those, CYA stores all its information in /home/CYA. And then inside that directory is another directory called points, and all of the backup profiles go in the points directory. So if you have 5, you'll have 5 folders in there. If you had 20, you have 20 folders or directories in there. So literally it's going to do the same thing it did in the previous video with standard, only the information is going into the base install directory instead of the 1 directory. So I will go ahead and pause the video because this will take it 5-ish minutes or so, and then we'll resume once the system has had a chance to go ahead, go through all the directories and update the date file. But again, you'll join me in just a moment in your time. I have to wait. See you in a moment. So welcome back. That took a few moments to complete. Now, just like before, in the standard backup, we get mostly the same thing. Now, why do I say mostly? Because there's one key difference. The system backed up, CYA backed up all the same directories. It wrote out a date file, but well, if you haven't watched it, then you won't realize this. But if you have, you'll recognize there's no rotation log update because we're not doing a rotation log because this is in essence, CYA is treating this as a one-off profile. So if I go scrolling up here, you'll see here we have 1, 2, 3. That's all we have, and 2 and 3 don't have a backup date. So let me go ahead and run that again. I'll clear this. I'll run CYA, and you'll see here now we have 1, 2, 3, and we have base install. So the backup is proceeded. Now what happens if I try and do this again? So let me go ahead and clear this. I'm going to run CYA keep, and I'm going to do base install. Now you'll see here it failed. The name is already in use, so I have to enter a unique name. In fact, if I try and enter 1, you'll say failed, already in use. 2, failed. 3, failed. It won't let you do that. So the name must be unique with this method. Now, you may be sitting there going, okay. But what happens if I want to script this? I need it to be able to update. Or, how do you script this and just simply, not even if you need it to update, but you just want to script, say you want to script and take a snapshot once a month and you just want to add a timestamp, something that will be unique. How do you do that? Well, that's pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and click on, I'm going to cancel this. Yep, helps if you hit the right one, off one key. Let me go ahead and clear this. So you can also tell CYA keep space name space, then name pick a name for your backup. Now if I do this, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. You'll see it fails because it's unable to create the directory. Now if you were going to create a script, you could simply say do something like base install dash and a timestamp by it. You could in your script just insert the date behind it or something like that, and it would be unique and create the directory. However, there is a way to actually go ahead and tell it to overwrite as well if you want to put that information in that directory. So you just want to say have like monthly, you want to call it a directory called monthly, and you want to be able to update the monthly directory. Then what you would do is you would repeat the same, it's the same line as above, so it's well, I'll go ahead and clear this. It's CYA space keep name space, then the name with no spaces, the name of your backup profile, then you simply hit space and type in overwrite. So again, it's CYA space keep, the command, space name, now you're giving it a name, base install space overwrite. If I do this and hit enter, you'll see here now it instantly launches in. It doesn't tell me that the directory exists. It actually goes ahead and will go through. Now, since it's rsync, it doesn't have to copy information that hasn't changed. So it's only going to copy that information which has changed. So it's going to be a lot faster. Now, it still has to index all your directories, so it's slower. Yes, I know something like ZFS or Butter or something that's doing block level is faster, but this again works across all file systems. So again, by simply adding in space overwrite into your script, into your cron job, your call, your anacron call, or your systemd call, then it will go ahead and it will do that. Now, you will see here though that it did update something, because if we look up here, you'll see here the time is 03:01:37. So remember that, 03:01. If I go ahead here and I clear this and I run this again, you'll see here we get 03:12. So notice it has advanced this. It did update that one file. If we look here, you see it did write out the date file. So it did update that, and it was much faster. That's how you literally do it. So those are your two options. You sort of have three. You have CYA space keep, hit enter, then just follow the bouncing ball, which really is just enter a name. Has to be unique, no spaces. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. There's CYA space keep space name. Then you pick a name. Again, if you wanted to script it, you could have, say, something like monthly dash, and then you'd have to have your script, say, put in the date. So you put in date here. Well, let's do like insert date. And then that way the system wouldn't delete it. You just have forever growing. If you do that, you have to make sure that you're watching your disk space and you're removing you're using the remove you can just delete the directory straight. You're just removing those directories so that you don't continue to eat up, or you could have hundreds of gigs just sitting there. And then finally, if you wanted to overwrite monthly, you would just do space, then type in the name overwrite or the command overwrite, and now you're telling CYA, hey, look, it's okay. You can go ahead and update the monthly backup profile and update any files, overwrite any files, delete any files, make any changes to bring the monthly backup profile in line and be a synced copy with the live installed system, at least of those directories. That's literally how easy it is. And now in the upcoming videos, we're going to discuss, just so you know, several key points. We're going to go over the commands that are there that we haven't discussed, all the different options. We'll also get into managing and working with the config file, and we will get into the restore aspect of this, because this is the first important step. I mean, you have to have the backups or snapshots, but you obviously doesn't do you any good if you can't do a restore against it. So we'll get into all that in future videos. So I'll see you in the next video.